Perhaps you will have heard something about me, although it is uncertain whether my poor and obscure name will travel far through time and space. And then perhaps you will want to know what kind of man I was and what happened to the books I wrote, especially those whose reputation has reached you, or of which you have heard some vague report. On the first point, no doubt, there will be various opinions, for almost everyone is driven by their own whims, not the truth, and there is no moderation when it comes to praise or blame. I had a balanced rather than a penetrating intelligence, one that was fitted for all forms of virtuous, healthy study, but was especially drawn to moral philosophy and poetry. In the course of time, I left the latter alone and took great pleasure in the Holy Scriptures, finding a hidden sweetness in them that I had once despised, and treating poetic writing as purely ornamental. Among my many activities, I devoted myself particularly to the study of antiquity, since I had always disliked the age in which I lived. If love of those dear to me had not pulled me in a different direction, I would have preferred to have been born in any other age and to forget this one, striving always to penetrate other times at least in spirit. So I took pleasure in the historians. When I was disturbed by disagreement between them, I dealt with the problem by following the version of the facts that seemed most probable, or was put forward by the most authoritative writers. My formal speech, some people said, was clear and forceful, although it seemed weak and muddled. But really, in ordinary conversation with friends and acquaintances, I never aimed at eloquence, and am amazed that Augustus Caesar made such a point of it. However, when the topic, or occasion, or the audience seemed to require something more, I did try to raise my tone. How effectively I do not know, and leave judgment to those who were present. For myself, so long as I lived righteously, I set little store by how I spoke. That glory is mere wind that seeks renown, only through the glitter of words. I left Rome and went to Parma. There I spent a short time with the Correggio brothers, who were very generous and upright toward me, but in conflict with each other, subjecting the city to a regime without parallel in its previous history, the like of which, I hope, it will never suffer again in this present age. I was mindful of the honor I had received, and concerned that it should not be seen as having been bestowed on an unworthy recipient. One day, when I happened to be walking up a hill on the far side of the river Enza, in territory belonging to the city of Reggio, I reached a wood called Selva Piana. I was struck by the beauty of the spot, and, pen in hand, took up the interrupted Africa. The inspiration that seemed to have been lost was reawakened. That day I wrote a little, and then something more on each of the days that followed. Finally, I returned to Parma, found a quiet house off the main thoroughfares, which I later bought and still own, and with a fervor that still astounds me, brought the work to conclusion in quite a short space of time. I then left Parma and returned to my transalpine solitude.